somebody who's struggled with meditation in the past, really just follow my voice. This time, don't manipulate your breath at all. Just sort of breathe evenly. Breath work definitely has a place in meditation, but that's not our purpose for right now. It's just a nice, even breaths. If your body's already shouting at you, tend to it. You need to move your shoulders or crack your back, anything that you need to do so that you can feel centered for the next few minutes. Let's just be aware. So we're going to start with the review of 2022. I just want you to think about what was great in 2022. What things were great for you and your family and your children. Hopefully those things make you smile a little bit. What experiences did you love in 2022? Now briefly think about what could have gone better. Don't spend too much time here. Don't get emotionally attached to it. Just what things could have gone better. Maybe it's an experience you wish you had traveled through easier or had more knowledge and wisdom for. Maybe it's a tragedy that you're still struggling with. All things are valid. Now, what was your very favorite? We talked about what was good, but what was your very favorite part of 2022? Just relive that emotion for a moment. How did it feel? Now, what beautiful experiences are you looking forward to in 2023? Just sit in that space for a moment. What are you creating? You know, in Auriel's Light, we are heavy Steiner. There's a lot of anthroposophy that you'll find here in the things that we're talking about in these gatherings. And then also, you know, if you are following us in other capacities, we'll be bringing a lot more Steiner there too. But one of the things that he brought about foundations that I thought was really important, and this comes from the Foundations of Human Experience, and he says, we must be conscious down to the foundation of what we do. So everything that we're doing in front of our children. And he says too, we will not be good teachers, and I say, or parents, if you focus only on what you do and not about who you are. So it's sort of crossing that space of not just what we're doing in front of them, but how we're showing up, who we are at our core, who we are like deep down in our essence. So as we work through these pieces of faith, consciousness, and humility, I'm going to work through them backwards, because as we start with humility, it allows us to sort of see where consciousness and faith come into play there. So first, we have to ask ourselves, what does humility mean? And often humility, like just the word, brings up a lot of like not good feelings for people. This idea that it's often a heavily religious idea, or somebody told you you needed to be humble and you just felt like you were spanked almost. And so we really want to have that conversation about like what it really means, because it's not a word that's about shaming. It's not a word that is a bad word. In fact, it's a really good word when we can bring it into who we are and bring it into sort of how we're parenting, how we're showing up as a human. Then we can truly walk this path and it doesn't feel bad. So let's start looking first at the root word, which is humus. And in Latin, that means earth. So to bring forth good fruit, we have to have good soil. Good soil equals good fruit equals emotionally healthy human beings or human habits. Bad soil equals bad fruit or poor habits. So bad soil feels like a spanking or a correction. That's like when we do something and we're like, think that we knew everything and then it fell all apart because we thought we knew everything and we weren't maybe in a teachable place. And we want to sort of correct that. If that's something that you know has been part of our past or something that we're showing up as, we want to like really look at that, because again, they're watching us.
So this story is called Scratch My Beard. And it's about a little forest gnome. His name was Happy. Happy lived deep in the forest with his clan, and he rarely made contact with humans or even other gnomes. One would think of a name like Happy, that he would be cheerful and kind. He wasn't. In fact, those who knew him often called him unhappy, but Happy didn't care. He only did something if he got something in return. He loved strawberries. And if someone had none to give him as pay, then he would not help them. He was unmarried, and even though most gnomes his age already had a wife and children, he lived alone in the stump of a tree, and he often complained that no one ever helped him. One day, Happy was out for a walk hunting for some wild strawberries. Suddenly, he heard a voice, "Help! Help!" He looked all around, couldn't find anyone. He heard the plea again, "Help! Help! I'm up here! Look up!" Happy looked up and he found a garden gnome caught in a snare. The snare was likely left by a human to catch animals, and they were trouble because they often caught gnomes instead. "Do you have any strawberries?" Happy asked. "No, I don't. I'm sorry. I'm a garden gnome, and all the garden berries have already been collected for the season. Can you please help me get down? Would really appreciate it." "Do you have anything to pay me with?" said Happy. "No, I don't. I'm sorry. Won't you help a fellow gnome?" "I will not. I only work for pay. If you had been working harder, then you would not have gotten yourself into the situation you are in. You will have to find someone else. I do not practice charity." Happy yelled, and he walked on. The nerve of that garden gnome, he thought. Just what kind of world would this be if we all helped each other without expecting anything in return? How would we get paid? How would I find strawberries? Ridiculous, he thought. As Happy walked on, he finally found a patch of strawberries hidden under a tree. He sat and began to eat them. Somehow, they didn't taste as sweet as he remembered they should. He was still angry about the garden gnome. After a few moments, he got up and began the short walk home, continuing to grumble about the gnome and the snare. Happy was so caught up in his anger that he neglected to see that he was about to step on a snare. Before he could do anything about it, he was swept upside down, high up in a pine tree. Now, this is a fine fix, he thought to himself. Happy was stuck in a tree for hours and hours. Other gnomes came by and only taunted him. "This is just what Happy deserves," they said. Later in the day, he caught a glimpse of a familiar face. It was the gnome that he left high up in the other tree without helping him. Happy didn't dare call out to the gnome. Surely he wouldn't help him. Oddly, Robin Redbreast was flying by and he saw Happy in the tree. He swooped down and signaled the garden gnome, who immediately climbed up the tree, took out his pocket knife, and set Happy free. "My name is Patches," said the garden gnome. "I was in the forest today looking for some wild mint, as our garden is all out and my poor wife has a terrible stomachache. I found the mint and I'm on my way home." "Why did you stop and cut me down? I didn't help you when you were stuck," said Happy. "Well, right after you ran on, a very nice forest gnome came along and cut me out of the tree. He pointed me in the direction of some wild mint and then showed me where I could find wild strawberries in the forest. I was so touched by his kindness that I wanted to help the next being that I saw, human, gnome, or animal." "And you are the next being that I saw," answered Patches. "Do you want payment?" asked Happy. "No, of course not. But I do remember you telling me just how much you love strawberries. What if I show you the berries that the other gnome showed me? Then you'll never have to hunt for them again. Come, I will take you there." Happy was puzzled by the friendliness of Patches. The gnome from another clan even sent somebody he knew. Happy began to think about just how thankful he was that he was safe from the tree. He could have been there for days. People were making fun of him and they didn't want to see him happy. He silently vowed to be more kind, more humble, and to work for others when he could, payment or not. The two gnomes arrived at the strawberry patch. Happy thanked Patches as he ran back through the forest to take the mint to his wife. Happy ate some strawberries, amazed at how sweet they were. His heart softened, and his face went from frowning to a sweet, berry-stained smile. He gathered just enough strawberries for his dinner, and he began to walk home. He greeted every gnome he saw with a kind smile and a cheerful heart. They were really... When he was almost home, he heard the cry of a baby deer. He quickly searched for it. Upon finding it, he realized that he had gotten caught in a hunter's trap, and the mother was nowhere to be found. He freed the deer and took out his medicine pouch. All little gnomes carry medicine pouches, just in case you didn't know. He began to dress the wounds of the baby deer with herbs and said a little prayer over it. He put the baby deer over his shoulders and began to walk through the forest to find its mother. Soon, he spotted a doe. She looked up and was excited to see her little fawn, and then she realized who was carrying it. Happy, the unhappy gnome. She thanked him and offered him a payment, knowing that this was Happy, and she worried that he would not otherwise return her fawn to her. Happy said, "No payment. That was unhappy Happy. The new Happy only works for the feelings in his heart. I am working on always doing the right thing." Happy gave the mother deer a big smile, and he went on his way. His heart felt so full that he made sure to stop and help every other creature that he could through the forest as he journeyed home. Soon the other gnomes began to realize that Happy was a good name for him, and they stopped taunting him. They began calling him Helpful Happy. And the forest was full and open with the spirit of charity. The end.